are you, John?
Better time. Tough time.
Sorry?
Tough time.
Tough time.
Feeling better?
I landed in Denver instead of Los Angeles, and then I spent a week in Denver and 6 weeks at the Spalding Hospital. So I'm lucky.
So how many spring trainings is this for you?
47 now.
Oh, wow.
47.
Yes. Hopefully it'll be around for the next another 20 springs.
Let's hope so.
We'll drink to that.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about re-signing Bogarts and Sale before the season?
You dressed up this morning.
These are Bogarts is an extraordinarily great player. Sale, Mookie Betts. We'd love to be able to have long-term contracts with all of them, but our conversations with them, which are ongoing, are private, and I think that's the best way to consummate a deal if one can be made.
Were there having conversations that with both Sale and Werner?
Conversations have been had, but I don't really want to get into any further details, except that, as I said, these are great players, and in a perfect world, we'd love them to be with us for the rest of their career.
You guys obviously have a number of big players who are free agents over the next 2 winters. What will your roles be specifically in regards to star players on the team reaching free agency? How will you have input in that?
Well, we'll obviously have input, but I think any good team has, over the next, as we put it, next couple of years, has significant players coming up. It's, we have free agency, so it's really hard to keep 25 players every year together. So it's just, we'll do everything we can to keep this team together, and we continue to rebuild and replenish. But free agency is what it is. So.
John, if you're a Red Sox fan, you're hearing the owner of the team say, we'll do everything we can. Fans are invested in this team that's coming up in the World Series. It's largely the same team as last year. So can you do anything that will allay those fears from Sox fans that this might be the year that this ends in terms of this talent that's on this team right now?
No, I don't think you can allay fears that that we have free agency in baseball, and and we have a lot of young players who will mature at the same time. We won't be able to, mature for free agency. We won't be able to keep all of them. It's just that simple. We may have the largest payroll in baseball, but even then you can't keep all of your players the way free agency works these days. So.
John, have you and Tom communicated either to Sam or Dave about a prioritization, about who you value most, or we should be emphasizing this? Just wondering if I could get a sense of your involvement in either organizing the team's philosophy or the actual negotiations.
I think that I don't think there's a list of 1, 2, or 3. We'd like to continue our relationship with the players that actually have been such great contributors. But as John said, it's their right to test free agency, and if we extend a player before his contract ends, maybe we can get a deal that might be slightly club favorable. So it's just a conversation.
You've seen in baseball, right, that there's been less and less players opting to sign before they hit free agency, it seems to me. So it works both ways. You've got to have, and maybe with the state of the free agent market at this point, you'll start to see more of that happening again.
Yeah. Do you think you might be able to take advantage of that, in that it has been a quiet last 2 winters, and that maybe some of your players may welcome the stability that comes with an extension so they don't go into an uncertain market?
Again, I think it's a matter of of a negotiation. I think the Yankees made a very fair deal with Severino. obviously, we're at a point in time. I think people are referring to the fact that Manny Machado and Bryce Harper haven't signed, but at this point last year we hadn't signed J.D. Martinez. So, I think in some ways we could answer that question better in a month.
John and Tom, Sales obviously has some shoulder issues. Does that concern you in a long-term commitment to him?
No, he's healthy. He had minor issues. They ended up taking a bit of time. He needed some rest at one point, but he hasn't had any significant shoulder issues.
Jim,
Significant.
You have been on record in the past about being reluctant to commit to players 30, pitchers in particular, 30 or older, the John Lester situation. You then later signed David Price. Is it fair to say that your thinking on that has evolved a little bit, or does Chris fall out of the norm for you and isn't as big a risk?
I think Chris falls out of the norm because he's just such a great, not just a great pitcher, but a great part of the team. As we saw in the World Series, he had quite an impact just being on the bench of the World Series. So he's a special player. We would love to be able to sign him. I think he would like to as well. But there are the realities of the marketplace and budgets, and he, this is his opportunity to be a free agent, potentially, which we'd like to avoid, but I think he would as well. So something could happen.
So your thinking is not evolved then? This is a special case?
I don't know. You guys should decide whether my thinking
The
is
reason
evolved.
the reason I'm asking is everything you just said could have applied to John Lester a few years ago.
I think we blew the John Lester. We blew re-signing him in spring training. So for reasons that are pretty apparent now, which I won't go into, but they're apparent. So, but it wasn't. You can see what's gone on in free agency is that price of war has gone up so radically that it's difficult, whether it's a pitcher or a position player, to enter into really long-term contracts at high dollars. And we haven't had we've done better, I think, with pitchers perhaps than we have with hitters in really long-term contracts.
So you had said at the winter meetings that oftentimes you guys actually lose money on machines. How has the luxury tax influenced the way that works for you?
It has an influence, but the biggest, I think I said in Foxwoods, the biggest influence is trying not to lose money. And that's a bigger, I saw another big team in the owners' meeting, I was talking to an owner of a big team in the owners' meeting. He had the same viewpoint that it's not the luxury tax he worries about, it's not being able to. Baseball's EBITDA is not what it should be, and even though people are frustrated, players are frustrated with free agency, we're finding ways to spend money in other areas in baseball.
Do you gentlemen feel like this team, the 2019 team, could be added to before the end of spring training?
Could be what?
Could be added to. You could add players to the roster. Free agents.
I think, as Cashman said about the Yankees, it's not done till it's done, and there are some. Obviously, it's not a perfect. There are some challenges that the team will face, and so we're addressing them.
It's possible, but I think we're pretty well set. We're hoping some people that have had issues, injuries, will be back this year and fill some important spots.
What did you think of the tone of the meeting you guys had this morning?
Great.
It was great. I loved the fact that Alex said that in some ways we're not turning the page, that he's had a really enjoyable off season, that we're obviously going to build upon it, but it's the new chapter. I thought he was extremely inspirational and articulate.
It's the team out of the Kimball race. Do you think the team might still re-sign Kimball to a shorter deal?
Do you want to touch that?
I think it's extremely unlikely.
Is that it?
About the 20-second pitch clock, you looking forward to that?
I am. I'd prefer 12, but
Which is the rule.
that's the rule. So why shouldn't? So anyway, it's a step in the right direction. We need to shorten the time of these games, and we need there. I mean, we feel strongly about it. Pace of play is really important. We're not in the 1950s. People have a lot of other things to watch and to do, other forms of entertainment. We need to have the game moving. And so,
The pitch clock has worked in the minor leagues. I think this is a good step in the right direction. There's going to be no penalty in spring training if you exceed it, but you'll get a warning from the umpire. But I mean, from our point of view, John and I, as you said, we feel that there are necessary improvements that the game needs to make, and we feel that hopefully our partnership with the players will allow us to make some more.
Do you know any of the specifics, like when the clock actually starts? Is it when the pitcher receives the ball?
Yes.
And then it starts? So what if the batter is messing around outside the batter's box for a while?
Well, then I think it's up to the umpire to tell him to step in the batter's box.
I think the pitcher can throw the pitch legally if he's not ready.
John, this is the 18th year of you guys, the new owners owning the team, and do you feel a level of comfort with the way things are running now? How do you look back at the whole thing and feel things are running now?
I can't believe, first of all, it's been 18 years. We have been, we couldn't believe when we won our first World Series, and we certainly felt extraordinarily proud of what the franchise has done in 18 years. But, speaking for the two of us, we are hungry to continue the success that we've had. We'd love to repeat this year. I know it's a big challenge, but I think Alex and the players are hungry, and I think looking back, again, I go back to I can't believe it's been 18 years and that we've gone through as much success and failure. I mean, we took very seriously the pain of finishing last 3 out of 4 years. That was not a great experience, but overall, I'm very proud of what we've done, and we're not done yet.
And can we assume that both you guys are going to the White House visit?
Well, I can speak for myself. I intend to go.
John?
Yes.
And do you have any concerns about the split in the clubhouse of people going and not going?
No, it's purely optional. I think it would be a political statement for us not to go. And we try to keep politics out of the Red Sox. So taking positions politically is something that just is inappropriate. It's a tradition and something that a lot of our players really look forward to. So
Both of you have had ownership in National League clubs. I know the commissioner said within the last 10 days that a DH implementation in the National League is not going to happen for a couple of years, probably until the CBA runs out. But John, as someone who grew up a fan of a National League team, Tom, your background in San Diego, what's your thinking on making it universal? Would you be in favor?
it's something that is a subject of negotiation. So I don't really want to talk about it. I think that it's possible it could change. There are some reasons to change it, but it's a subject of negotiation.
The commissioner said yesterday that he believes payroll doesn't necessarily correlate with winning. I don't know if you guys agree with that, and do you feel at this point that you have a competitive advantage by having the highest payroll?
I think Baltimore payroll was double what the Tampa payroll was last year, right? Close to double. So there is a correlation, I'm sure there's a correlation, but it's not as perfect. It's very difficult to predict things in baseball, predict player performance. So spending more money helps, doesn't assure you of anything.
Tom, you mentioned trying to repeat the whole time both of you guys have been here, no teams repeated. So why do you think it's been so difficult?
There are 30 teams every year.
Yeah,
That's the
other
biggest
sports have
reason.
had repeat champions since baseball. Do you think there's something unique to baseball that has made it hard?
Well, I think that the best you can hope for is that you get into the postseason, and then I think you've got 8 very evenly matched teams. And I think we were very, very fortunate. We, rolled over the
To go
Astros.
11-3?
Yeah, well, we did. We rolled over 3 very good teams, but there's a degree of good fortune and randomness to it. So I think it's just statistically, it's very hard. But obviously, the Patriots have figured out a formula that makes them successful. And what I think is encouraging is that our players are not thinking about anything else except actually performing at an elite level again this year.
And if you see what goes on behind the scenes, especially last year, I don't think as much in terms of, well, we had a lot of good fortune. There were a lot of things going on behind the scenes that were really smart last year, and this was a really talented group that were committed to each other and committed to doing whatever it took. So I do feel good. You've got to have some good fortune, but
Alex was just telling
this
us.
wasn't.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Alex was just telling us he doesn't want to close the book, turn the page. He wants this to be a continuation of what you've been doing, winning championships. You think that's the right way to go about it, and not start over again just because you have so much of the team coming back?
Absolutely. If you listen to his reasoning today on why he said, rather than turning the page, which is usually a negative connotation, right? You turn the page, things go poorly. This is more about writing a new chapter. I thought that was brilliant.
Do you guys hope to get into negotiations with Dave about his situation? I know you said after the World Series that was something that you might look into this offseason.
Yeah, we don't. In this day and age, it probably doesn't make sense for a general manager to go into his final year without a contract. So that would mean something should happen this year.
You guys talk about Alex in his second year. I mean, like you said, John, you earned a championship, but with so many things going right, he may have some more ups and downs this year, have to manage. How do you feel about him in his second year and how he's going to handle that?
Based on the first year?
I mean, as John said in some interview, that he doesn't lack confidence, and we feel confident that he'll figure out a way to manage through any ups and downs that surface.
It's funny that was, I don't know, for hours, my biggest concern was just, I thought he might be overconfident when we first met with him. But it turned out that confidence really enabled him to do a lot of things that you don't see managers do very often. And you don't always know why a manager does things, but he did so many things, including during the playoffs, that that were open to criticism, that worked out. So he didn't get a lot of criticism, but again, his ability, his confidence in what in his instincts and what he's doing were, I think, one of the keys to the season last year.
John, you said that in terms of overconfidence, obviously you hired him, so it wasn't a big deal.
No, it was the only negative.
So was it a red flag at the moment? Did it make you?
It wasn't any endeavor you worry a little bit about. You know, especially in leadership, you don't necessarily want an overconfident leader. In most industries, overconfident. You want a confident leader, but I wrongly thought he was overconfident.
What made you think that in that first interaction?
You know, we bring up certain things and that's not going to be a problem. And he turned out to be absolutely right. I mean, even during the season, at one point, our bullpen was really on fumes at one point last season, and I saw him after a game, and I said, "How do you feel about the bullpen going forward?" And he said what he said in so many occasions, even during the World Series and the playoffs. We're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. These guys, they're going to be fine. We're going to be fine. So we just.
John, Adam Wainwright said that he believes there could be a player walkout or player strike mid-season. What are your thoughts on
mid-season this year?
What are your thoughts on his comments?
That's crazy. Because, I think a lot's been said about the market, the free agent market, but it is a free agent market. It's a free market. And a free market doesn't always do what you want it to do. If there are issues, and I'm sure there are some legitimate issues, because monies that we're going into free agency now are tending to go in different areas simply because war is so expensive. I think it's a function of how expensive free agent war is. It's up 50% probably in the last 4 years. So you've got that going on. But if the players are unhappy with this, then they should engage. Our commissioner was a labor lawyer for a couple of decades, and it's important, I think, for the union to engage. I'm on the negotiating committee and was during the last CBA. It's important for the union to engage firsthand on what they would like to change, and this has been a series of negotiations that have led to the kind of market that we have today, and that's enough about that.
Tom,
anything else?
Can you talk about? I know you want to talk about negotiations, but with so many guys in potential walk years, can you just talk about the process that goes on between the front office and Alex and his staff when you're talking about, you're not going to be able to keep everybody, so how their input matters, how much it matters about how they feel about certain players?
Of course. I mean, Dave and his staff are really the captains, and they confer with us, but they are guiding us in this process. It's a collaborative process, but of course we have input.
And I think between the front office and the clubhouse, there's tremendous communication at this point. So, when before Dave makes a move, or does anything, he talks with Alex. It's really a collaborative. It's a collaborative baseball operation.
I'm asking specifically because, as you know, the last couple of years, a lot of talk about analytics and this and that, and baseball has changed a little bit. So I'm curious if you have more reliance on them because of the way baseball is viewing players, with you projecting what they might become.
We do have more reliance than we did a couple of years ago, I think. And
Anything else?
Embraced.
Thank you.
I don't have it.